Welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. We show how to talk about Linux projects such as a distribution, a desktop environment or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics, any that is Linux tech and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. Just 1 second here. All right. And with me today, I got a fantastic panel of pleasantly something people. I fell on my face for an alliteration on that one. I got Seeker, Mike, Chilson. I got Eris, Adam Grubbs, Ben, Dale of Low Tech Linux fame, GNU to Linux, Jinda, and Eric. How is everybody today?
Having a heck of a night.
A heck of a night. You know what? If I were any better, I would probably crash my system.
Ooh,
your little heart couldn't take it.
Couldn't take it. Yep. Couldn't take it. Well, if you'd be so kind as to maybe do me a favor, and if you'd like to smash that like button or the dislike button if you don't like this. Either way, those metrics are great for me. And if you're watching that and you're not subscribed, that'd be kind of cool too. But better than that, if you could join the Zoom and present your face or avatar or whatever, and with your voice and input to me, so I can talk less, that would be great. Also, be sure to do the straw poll if you have not done so yet already. Knock out that straw poll, and so we can have a chit chat about that late in just a little bit. So on the docket for today, we are going to be talking about RSS feed applications, plus a little bit more. We have a community free pour with the fine folks at StormOS, and if there's some news, if there's time in there, we'll do some news perhaps.
Hopefully.
But first, what have we been doing on Linux and tech? I failed to actually hit somebody up ahead of time. So Eric, what have you been doing on Linux and tech?
We had been actually talking about AI and how we were making fun of everything being in, everybody shoving AI into whatever they could, including Zoom, and how, they justify that by passing the cost on to the customer, which,
yes,
thank goodness. And the, idea of like, is AI actually something that's valuable? Have people used it in any meaningful way? And I think I've mentioned in the past that I've had good luck with it doing things like summarizing long articles or texts, bodies of text. And if you give it a specific framework or specific, text to look at, it does a good job because it generally isn't going to be too creative. It's sort of focused on that thing. But I wanted to help my daughter this week with a report she had to do for Spanish class, where she had to list out the 21 Spanish-speaking countries in the world, which continents they were on. It was like all these little factoids, and each one had to be. So I thought, okay, rather than just starting from, I'm just going to try an AI. Every time I have a use case, I just throw it at AI just to see. And a lot of times it fails and just doesn't do a very good job. But this time I thought, okay, I'm going to pose that in a prompt, specifically what the specifications for the assignment are, and just get the information back, and then not just use it directly, but then fact check it and use it as a sort of derivative of it. And I tried ChatGPT and Gemini and different ones, and the best result I had, especially for doing research, was Perplexity. So I don't know if anyone's tried that one or not. And the reason was that all of the items that it had in a bullet point or a fact, if you will, has a reference behind it, and so you can actually see like where it got that from, and so it gives you at least a certain amount of confidence. And so yeah, I got the sort of the markdown output,
Hmm.
and then was able to sort of just go through the references and verify that each of the items was correct. And so I kind of thought like, okay, well I guess it saved me a little bit of time, but because I still have an issue of trust and knowing whether or not something's actually true, I did have to go back behind it and do some extra work to verify it. But I just thought it was interesting that it did kind of like change my approach to starting something like that, like a research project or finding the right direction to go in. And again, only because in this case, Perplexity was giving me these specifically like the reference of where it was pulling this information from. So yeah, I keep finding, like I said, these different use cases for AI and whether or not it benefits me in, any meaningful way. And I've found a few, but it's really shaky, and I do have to wonder, like, in the grand scheme of things, I actually also saw an article earlier today that said 95% of companies that have done, integration with an AI product into their own software haven't seen any sort of meaningful return. Their customers haven't said that they, find it useful. They haven't found a way to really monetize it. And so that's a pretty shocking statistic. 95% of implementations of AI aren't finding any real traction. So I don't know. You have to kind of wonder, is it really a bubble? Will these companies just keep pouring, is AI too big to fail? That kind of thing. Are we in that type of situation right now? So
I think that is the big conversation we're having is everywhere. And it's today's cryptocurrency, I think, or blockchain, AI. And frankly, it's irritating. It's kind of the point where it's irritating.
So
And
can we
then,
say Web3 too?
can we say what?
Web3.
We can
oh
say
well,
that.
yeah.
Can we also say in the cloud? So I think AI, just like cloud and blockchain, will naturally find where it fits. I think it's going to do that. I think we're going to. Frankly, I've seen some really great like AI. You can tell they're AI generated videos because there's something about it that looks just a little bit off, uncanny valley ish, and so I think that's probably actually a decent place for it. Really, like generating, obviously takes a lot of computational power, but videos and whatnot. I'm a little concerned about like deep fakes. And manipulating people, but we've been doing that already with other media, so it's not like this would be a new phenomenon. You just have to be a little bit smarter about outwitting the the AI, I guess, or those are just trying to trick you. So there's that. I think but it has some really valuable use cases. Like for me, I have a hard time making sense of a lot of documentation that's out there. Like it's a lot of great information, but like, can you tell me how to implement this thing? And I think for me, these different tools have come in handy. I've run local and I've run, use some cloud-based stuff out there, and it's valuable. It doesn't necessarily give me the 100% correct answer, but it gets me way closer to where I need a lot more rapidly. So that's where I think I find a lot of value. And also it gives. Some of them will actually give you links and references so you can look and see where it got the information from. And I find that incredibly valuable because you can actually look at the source material, not just what it compiled from that. So I see that as a value. I don't know that. Oh, also giving a bunch of statistics and cranking out a chart, that's pretty valuable too. So if you ever have to like, if it's like, I got a table of information here, can you turn it into this? And here's my criteria. Like for instance, and maybe I said this already, but I had to go through just tons and tons of logs of people coming and going, and I had basically used it to to chart trends and to find basically find anything that was just outside of the norm for when a person should have been there. And it actually found it very easily and then gave me a summary of these were the times out of the norm. And then I could then report that upward to whoever needed it. That was very valuable too. Maybe if I were better with Excel or, database manipulation, I wouldn't need that. But, that was a very cool tool.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it, like you said, it will sort of settle. And the idea too is that, I mean, saying AI is really just sort of a blanket term for machine learning, which, and LLMs obviously, which is, an offshoot of that. But machine learning is something we've been doing with computer science for a very long time, decades. And this is just sort of a evolution of that. So I guess what annoys me and I think a lot of other people is just this insistence that it needs to be everywhere. And I think that's really mainly because we don't have a good idea of exactly where it fits and what the use cases are that are useful to the widest audience, I guess. But like you said, that's exactly the type of use case where you'd want something like that, where you're looking at disparate logs and, pulling data from different places and needing a way to sort of, corroborate all this stuff and then draw conclusions from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from data analysis, it's a great tool for that. Again, knowing that specifically you're using a model that has a very low probability of, like the reasoning models. I don't know if anybody's seen those where there's the traditional LLM, which is just sort of outputting something, and then there's a sort of a newer concept of a reasoning where it's creating the answer and then like, does this make sense? Sort of like stepping through the thought process, which theoretically should lead to more correct or sort of like factually derived. But again, it's not as smart as I think some people want to believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
And just like any computer, I mean, and I think that's always been the case. I mean, even 25 years ago when I was, starting out in the business, I mean, people just had this unrealistic expectation. A lot of my managers would be, well, can't you just do it on a computer? And it's like, well, computer, it's not magic. I can't just like wave a wand. I mean, there are limitations and, computers are truly just like stupid machines. Like there's no thought behind it. It's just a
they're
decision
idiots.
tree. Yeah, right. I mean, and they can do amazing things, but it's all based on fast computation. It's not based on logic and reasoning. It's based on speed.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just wanted to add that AI is not smart. I just want to make that clear. AI is not smart. And that confuses a lot of people but it says artificial intelligence. How can it not be smart then?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably what rubs a lot of people, including myself, the wrong way. When they were calling it machine learning or something like that makes a lot more sense to me. I mean, even that's sort of a nebulous term, but it doesn't imply intelligence necessarily. It actually I think more succinctly describes what you're doing, which is giving a lot of information to, a system and then having it sort of learn, if you want to call it that, I guess. But, yeah.
If you provide the right inputs, it can provide the useful outputs. I think that's really what it boils down to. And that's basically been every computery thing ever. So,
yeah.
I mean, there's so many reasons why I think a lot of the AI stuff is just garbage or just is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. And some of it's actually decent. So I think like the idea, I think Nextcloud has got the ability to, if you use that as your email aggregator, that you can have it summarize emails for you. And again, that could be, it could do it wrong, but at least it would be helpful to know, like, this is the general theme from, whatever, from like a thread of emails. Like sometimes where I work, you have this giant thread, and it just like has a couple statements. And although I will say, now that I'm using Thunderbird instead of Outlook for doing my Office 365 email, it actually puts it in a nice thread now, so I can actually follow it a lot easier, which is beautiful. Outlook can't do that. At least I have not found a way to do that in Outlook, and I don't know why it would be the default if it could do that. So anyway, Outlook's kind of terrible. But anyway, that's worth the $10 a year for that plugin. I would gladly pay that so I can read my emails quicker. Not advertising, but I am. Anyway, open source developers. I like to, help them eat. So I think
I concur. I concur. Outlook is terrible because I have to use it at work.
Yes, Outlook has gotten worse instead of better.
Is it still a bloated pig?
Worse than ever.
Worse than
Okay.
ever. The search doesn't work. It's
Never did.
constantly trying to stop working for no reason. You delete an email and close it and open it back up. That email's still sitting there. It's gone from hot garbage to worse, and I have no idea how I did it.
And they forced Windows 11 on me, so I've got the Outlook on Windows 11.
That's what I got too, and it's a nightmare.
Universally, everybody hates Windows 11 Outlook, the new Outlook, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I think just people are just not used to it. So
Do they still have like 3 or 4 different pieces of software that they're calling Outlook that are completely different? Like they used to have the Outlook on your phone, which is nothing like the Outlook on your computer, which is
Yes.
nothing like the inbuilt Outlook on Windows versus
They have-
Office 365.
Yeah, they have the web client, the the Outlook client, and then the mobile. The mobile is probably the worst one. Like it's
I
kinda
have
like,
it on Android. It's awful.
It's kind of, I mean, all right. So it would be awesome. Like 15 years ago, it would have been a great client.
Yeah.
Maybe 12. It would have been great.
So they actually bought that from another company. That wasn't an in-house product originally. They bought a product called Acompli, and they just put Outlook on top of it.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems very dated as far as its usefulness. And the way it aggregates, like if you have multiple emails, it actually does the threading, but does it like backwards. So, I guess it's okay though. I mean, I guess it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
When it works. But,
That's a glowing endorsement.
yeah.
I don't know. I check my email twice a day, so I just don't interact with it.
I have to interact with it a lot at work. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I used to use Outlook for about a decade, and I stopped in 2019 because it simply wouldn't work. The version I had, 2010, Outlook 2010, stopped working with Google's new zero auth security
Yep.
functionality. So that's when I switched to Thunderbird. Never looked back.
Yeah. I tried this is totally whatever, but Outlook does have the ability to have an AI plugin, just to kind of circle back, but you have to pay for that with Office 365. It's like $40 a month or something like that. I'm not going to do that. Maybe it was 24. I don't know. I could get the number wrong. Check with the Microsoft Store for you. Anyway, I'm not going to pay that. It just the Copilot's has been very unimpressive lately too. Actually, I think they're all getting dumber lately. Like I don't know. I think they think the models are being fed now, or think too much, and I don't think they vet the sources very well. But whatever. It's whatever. Yeah. Code 2610 says Outlook Express was better. Yeah.
Outlook Express.
So yeah, if you want a great Outlook experience, get the OWL plugin for Thunderbird, and Office 365 will function a lot better for you. Like I'm not kidding. It's way better, way better. You do have to pay there's a fee for it, but there's a trial. You can start with the trial. If it works for you, do that. I'm telling you, it's a life changer if you have to use Office 365. I would put my hand and swear on my SUSE plushie with that one. That's how serious I am. Yeah. All right.
Who remembers Eudora?
I don't.
That was my email client for the late 90s till 2010.
It was
Really?
either that or
Yeah.
Pegasus Mail.
How about here, Lotus Notes?
Ooh.
I stopped using that I used it with a previous employer. I used it when I started back with that previous employer the second time. I used that in 2014, and then they switched over to the Google Suite after that. But yeah, Lotus Notes, that was something else.
I have a fun anecdote about the Lotus Notes thing. There were these 3 IBM engineers, this is years ago, that were doing an AMA on Reddit, and the top voted question that was skimmed to them was, "What is the worst piece of software you've ever developed, and why is it Lotus Notes?"
That's good.
And it's
That's
like you
good.
got roasted instantly. Like,
You know why companies use that? Because they could make those custom databases in the
Mhm.
inside the client, and then you could do like your basic early rudimentary version of like a CRM system. And yeah, we had all of our like server stuff in there. Like we had so much crap in that application, and like the size of the of the local database was so big, such a pig. That thing was horrible. It would just randomly not work, and it's like, well, it's not like I needed email today to do my job or something.
I'll say my crowning Lotus Notes achievement was getting it to run on HP Unix in like 2002, and it was quite it was complicated, but when I got it to work, man, I was really happy about that because I hated that was in the day when I had like we had like a Sidekick admin machine, so like and then. So you had like 2 machines. You had my Unix workstation. I had my Windows 98 PC. I know that was a while ago, and I was able to get almost everything working on the Unix workstation. That was before I started using Linux, by the way, and that was pretty exciting. It was fun for me to get it to work, and then someone introduced Linux to me in the workplace, and I'm like, I'm never going back. And here we are.
Zoe in chat said people were doing Unix in 2002.
I did Unix for 2002 until 2007, I think, or 6 or 7. Yeah, it's good times. Lotus Notes on Unix. It's not the experience you probably want. All right, well, if you have not done that straw poll, please do so. And thank you, Eric, for your thoughts on AI. And other stuff. But yeah, we'd like to knock out that straw poll, I guess. If anytime you are ready, Eris, you can fire away at that.
Okay. I did get one comment, I think. Let me see.
Yes, and I think I know who did that one.
It says, I think immutable distros are great for a lot of use cases, but I don't think that at this time they are universally the right way to go for everybody. Yes, you can make an immutable distro work like a traditional distribution, but with a lot of caveats. I think that the best middle ground for having your cake and eating it too is going with something like Tumbleweed, where you can optionally have transactional updates or just stick with the standard update process and take full advantage of the rollback feature built into ButterFS file system. Somebody in chat, in YouTube chat, asked, "What is an immutable distro?" And I think I said it's a system where you can't change the system files while using it. Gets more complicated than that.
Yeah, it's not as straightforward, and I think there's like another term for it too now, I guess. I don't know.
Zoe also said, let me see. I don't know if I can find the comment. Technically, a distro with a file system cannot be changed at all. But when people say that it's usually, when they say it, they usually mean what Fedora calls as atomic distros, which are immutable part, but they are not purely immutable. Yeah.
And I think maybe the easiest way to understand it is that the system itself, sort of the core sort of underpinnings of the system itself, the things that are making the system boot up, the things that are sort of underpinning everything, that's all a more or less a fixed image. And depending on the implementation, a lot of them will do something like an A/B where you've got a running image and then a backup image or a secondary image. And so when there's an update, you're basically downloading an entire new snapshot that becomes the alternative image. And then when you reboot, it switches to that. But if there's a problem with it, then you can just switch back to the last known good one. So that's like an A/B root concept. And if you're using a cell phone, Android works this way, where basically the underlying Android system is a mounted read-only, if you will. And then everything you're doing on top of that in sort of userland is a sort of riding on top of that, if you will. And that's where you're installing apps, or you've got your files, or sort of all the interactive pieces of it are separate from the underlying system. So
I think another term that's often used is like cloud ready. So like with Bazite being cloud ready, because that's the one I probably use the most besides SteamOS, is it's all built in the cloud and then pushed to you locally. So it's already a known working state before it comes to you, and that I think is very valuable. And frankly, I think that for probably most computer users, I'm going to go ahead and say 80%, maybe more, of users would probably be fine with that sort of arrangement. I'm a tinkerer. I like to mess with things that I have no business messing with, and so it doesn't work as well for me.
I think so. Like the Fedora-based stuff, I think they are saying that they're shooting for like the 90th percentile, where they're kind of like you just said, where they're making assumptions about how most people would use a computer. And again, this is why Flatpak has so much support. I mean, one of the reasons is most of the immutable distros, because Flatpak is a way to distribute software that doesn't rely on you needing to write those files to that root image. That solves the problems of if you're, let's say they give you the image, the base system, and you don't, there's a piece of software that you don't have that you want. If it's being released as a Flatpak, then the assumption is, okay, you can just download it and run it as a Flatpak without changing that underlying image. So I answered other for mine, and simply just because I have had a lot of friction with using all of the Fedora-based ones as well as Vanilla OS. But I do feel there's a certain level of inevitability at this point. There's a lot of really smart people, and the approach to it is very much in line with the way that people create, develop and deploy software now. And so there's a lot of sort of synergies in terms of like the way that all of that's happening, the DevOps kind of stuff, and software deployments and servers and all that stuff. And then the way that a operating system can run on a computer. So it's, like I said, for me personally, I just keep running into situations where like there's assumptions on their part where, say, for example, they have an expectation in many cases that that's the only system running on your computer. So if you're trying to dual boot, there's some friction around that. And I've found that sort of universally in every one that I've tried. And then, of course, with the image being static, like if you need to, you can overlay packages with like RPM OS tree, I think it is, something like that. But then it gets messy because then you're sort of changing it. What I really wanted to try was what Adam had been doing, where he was creating his own custom snapshots and having them build images and having them build on GitHub, and then using that as sort of your base image that includes everything that you already wanted it to have, instead of taking the default base and then doing this like overlay thing. So that seemed like a more direct way to deal with it. I just haven't gone that far. Quite honestly, I spent many hours just trying to get it to run properly. And like I said, I mean, friction's the best way to say it. Like, I'm sure I could make it work, but it just felt harder than it needed to be. And I really do think, though, within a few years that it will probably be the most straightforward, simple way to deploy a Linux-based distro or operating system on, on a computer.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. That's probably the direction things are going to go. I think just in general, it just seems like for desktop purposes, I think it just seems like I think it scales.
It makes supporting it easier, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
You just can kind of say, well, what image are you using right now?
Right.
I mean, it's just like you've seen with OpenSUSE, right? I mean, it's a snapshot-based system, and it's basically you can kind of say like, well, which deployment are you using, which version are you using, and then you can make assumptions about, what's there. Whereas now, with the way most distros work, the variability between any given install can be huge. So
Mute it.
I think it also scales really well in the idea of, so x86 isn't the only architecture that we're using now. There's lots of other ones. I know Adam had a great time with an ARM-based system, so great that he traded in. But nonetheless, he had a great time with it for a while. I think we're going to see ARM and RISC-V and these other platforms kind of come into their own. And I think probably the immutable deployments are going to make more sense for those things. Kind of like how Bazite, when you go to download it, you have a list of supported hardware for it. So that to me kind of sort of feels like the future, and I think it scales better for that in that regard. So I guess we'll see what happens. But
well, that's what's interesting too, right? Is that you can spin up or create images for a lot of like varieties of purposes where you've already thought out some of those things. So if a scientific release or a media production release or like you can imagine a whole different verticals in terms of like what people do with a computer, what specialized tasks they're doing. And then someone's just taken the time to create a spin or an image of that. And you can, because that's the other thing that's nice is like you can be running like a Bazite image and then switch to using Bluefin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an image, like it's separate from the rest of your system. So
right.
It's interchangeable. And there's so many positives to it that I really do think it's well thought out, right? It's not just like something that someone got a random idea and thought, let's try this. No, there's a lot of intention behind it. And it's only going to just keep getting better, honestly.
Now, for those here that use immutable regularly, or one of those, I know that GNU to Linux is not one of them because he doesn't flat pack. So I know that he's probably not the target market for that. But I know Adam has been very happy with it. Do you kind of sort of think that's the way it's going to go?
With the image distros?
Yes.
It's hard to say. I see advantages of it, and I think it's worked out really well for Nessa. She's been on Bazite for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any issues at all. I think it's pretty useful for people who are just like doing standard people things. But if you're a tinkerer in any capacity, really, like it can, if you want to tinker with your OS, it gets in your way. Sure, I can see that, absolutely. But if you're the type of person who needs a machine to just do a thing, it's great. Whether that be gaming, whether that be just like loading up an IDE and just doing your code and your testing and stuff because your image has all your things built into it, or if it's just a kiosk or you just have a web browser, a social media machine, whatever, like those types of things that a lot of people do, they're more than adequate for that. I think it's only the people who want to get in and like change things and mess about and customize or rice or however you want to say, like those are the people that aren't necessarily suited for those. But to be honest, like that's fine. Like there are plenty of distros that will always be there for people who want to tinker and do that stuff. And I just don't think there has to be one or the other. I think they can absolutely coexist.
Well, I think though, even like Fedora right now, like Bazite is based on Fedora. They're all based on Fedora and they're tested against that first. So they still need that traditional distribution underneath it to support it, to build these things and so forth. So it's not like it's ever going to go away. It just won't be the primary way I think people consume Linux, I think in the long term.
I think it's too hard to tell, to be honest. Like that's such a difficult thing to say, because like who will be consuming Linux is the question, right? If we start talking about more and more general users consuming Linux, then possibly, yeah, I think that wouldn't be a bad way to go.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have like the tinkerers, the people who come into Linux because like they want to customize, they see something like Omarchy, for example, and they're like, I want that, and like that type of stuff, or the Arch by the way memes or whatever, then there's that, right? I mean, we talk about like the image-based stuff, like based on Fedora and all that, but there are other systems like Geeks and NixOS and others that are immutable in their own ways, and those are plenty popular with tinkerers. They allow a different type of tinkering, because NixOS, for example, you can declare a whole config, so it's all your customizations, but it's still immutable, and in that way, there's still rollbacks, there's still all of that you get with an image-based thing, but it also allows you the flexibility to just kind of do your thing. So in a way, if you're willing to put in the elbow grease, NixOS is an immutable distro that offers you the actual customization you might want. So I think the image-based ones are kind of the easy deploy. They're the easy, they're a distro hopper friendly thing, right? They're something you can throw on a USB stick, toss on a hard drive, and enjoy for a night. Or in the case of someone like Nessa, it's something they can put on their machine and not have to think about the innards, because she doesn't care about the system. She doesn't care about the underlying stuff. She just wants it to work.
Right.
And so they're great for that. But I don't necessarily think that those will become the default so much. I think they'll become more popular, but I don't think they'll become the default for quite a while, if ever.
Do you think it could be? So one of the reasons one of the reasons we know that Linux on the desktop hasn't grown much is because people tend to stick with whatever's installed on a machine when they buy it. And I have to wonder if hardware companies would be more inclined to use Linux if there was easier to support. So if you got to figure like an image-based distribution and all of the sort of benefits that go along with it. I don't know. I mean, I know it's probably...
I actually see like kind of a support nightmare from that, because
Really?
they're going to be... Yeah, think about this. We have decades of Linux knowledge on the internet that doesn't even apply.
That's a good point, yeah.
People are going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, how do I get this program? Well, this program says I have to do sudo apt install. And they're like, well, that doesn't even work. Or even dnf install. Yeah. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Fair point.
So, like, yeah, I think that's even more of a problem than it would be.
Yeah, the backwards compatibility of Windows is definitely one of those like superpowers, for better, for worse.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I think
so. Yeah, I mean, you can't really ignore the fact that there's this whole repository of information on the web for people who are new to Linux, and they roll up in a silver blue, and none of it applies. Like, there's that.
Yeah, but I would say like things that are older than 10 years at this point probably doesn't, unless that information has been updated, probably doesn't.
I mean, you hit
apply.
up a GitHub, and it's going to tell you to DNF install.
Right.
That's the most simple thing right there. Yeah.
You'd have to have specialized support from whoever's,
Yeah, and even then, you're gonna have to tell the user, sorry, that's not how you do it on our system. And they're like, well, I paid all this money, and you tell me I can't do things.
So
Yeah.
I think like the way George said that, basically Bazite is like it's a flat pack, homebrew, and something else for software. I can't remember what the third thing was, but basically it's for Bazite. So you can get these repositories. So like
DistroBox?
Yeah. Well, was it DistroBox?
Yeah,
maybe it was DistroBox.
Yeah.
So you have the FlatHub repository or distribution of software. You have the homebrew distribution of software, and you had, I guess, DistroBox. But I think it said another distribution.
PIP.
PIP? Was it
PIP.
PIP? Is that what it was? Could be.
I think so.
Anyway, the point is, it's a very interesting when I think about that, like just in terms of software for people who are new to Linux, that's going to be a way easier, way more consumable way of acquiring your software. And I think that it might be more sustainable long term too, because you have that one of those quote superpowers as far as you have the maybe not necessarily, because you have those redistributable chunks, so you have that chunk of data, that platform that moves much slower, that sits on top of it, that everything works against. Or maybe App Image is better. I don't know. But
No, I think it sort of depends on what you're trying to do, because before they were integrated, before Brew was in the mix, that because Flatpak doesn't do very well with like system level stuff, if you're trying to do things that need access to the underlying system, like Brew tends to do a better job, almost like with Snap, like how a Snap would do. There's a lot of stuff in Brew that's sort of more sort of low level, command line level type
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that has made it easier for me. So that is sort of an evolutionary thing, and that's what I think. Like over the next few years, each use case that comes up that causes the friction again is something that I think they're going to just keep finding ways around, and eventually there just won't be any arguments anymore. And that's just it for me. I mean, when I can deploy one of those systems for myself or for someone I'm helping, like, and it just installs the way I want it to, and then just functions with little to no need to ever like touch anything system level other than just like general preferences and stuff, then that's when it'll be ready, I think, and for the 90 percentile or whatever they're shooting at. And they're close, but they're just not quite there yet. I mean, if you don't do anything, if you literally just use a computer as a means to run a browser, then it's fine how it is.
Do your thing. Yeah.
And I think gaming is another domain where they've done a really good job, right? Bazite is a revelation in terms of like for non-technical people to just be able to get that up and running and have it take care of like the lion's share of work to get Steam going and games going, like so. Yeah, there's so much promise there that I can't help but believe that it is going to have a pretty substantial impact on what the identity of desktop Linux. So
let's also not dismiss the fact that it has to really be. There's a big thing now that, and I've noticed this. Okay, side tangent. Looking for Emacs content, it's like every video out there, every creator out there, it's like 4 years old, like 4 or 5 year old videos. You go and look for NeoVim stuff, and it's like 2 weeks ago. Like people are posting all kinds of stuff about that. Now, why is that? Well, there's obviously been more Vim users than Emacs, but the point is there's like a huge social media creator economy around NeoVim that there's not in Emacs, right? So that's kind of a big thing that like we've seen bigger creators who are not necessarily Linux people talking about Bazite, right? And that gets more people interested in Bazite specifically, right? But the usual Linux creators are not necessarily that type of user, and they're going to go into more esoteric things, and that's what people are going to see who are not Linux people, who might just be curious and look on YouTube, look on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and see these things. They're not necessarily going to see these other things, right? They're going to see the super technical whiz bang, look at me, I'm a hacker in this terminal thing. They're going to be like, I want to do that. And they're like, but you can't do that on immutable. You have to do that on this. And then they're like, okay, then I don't want immutable. Like that is a big thing that I've noticed is that these creators have a huge impact on the next generation of users. The old people who don't care about YouTube, like that's not even the point, right? It's the new users who are young, teenagers, young adults. That's how they get their information, and that's the information they're getting. They're not getting information about Silverblue. They're getting information about Bazite. And maybe Bluefin, but mostly Bazite. But like when they look and see Linux content, they see the dude with like the Arch tiling window manager, hacking NeoVim. That's what they see.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Hyperland.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a big one. And so we might all, scoff and balk at it or whatever, but that's the next generation of users.
Yeah, it's probably true. But I think there probably may be at some point in time, though, like a consumer where they don't care that it's Linux. They just want to play their video games on their handheld. There's gonna be those.
Yeah, they already have that. It's bad.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying though is like those people probably are not going to care that much one way or the other, and I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Right. So that actually feeds into the point that immutable distros seem to be more catered toward an appliance than an actual general desktop. If that's the case.
Yep. But you think about it, like there are probably more people on Bazite today than there were Windows, Windows 1, Windows 2 users, in 1980 something. So it's something to put in perspective.
That's a comparison you can make.
Yeah. All right.
All those OS2 users.
That's right. And there's probably a lot of those, though, weren't there? I don't know.
No.
No? Okay. Well, I guess we should probably go ahead and get to the main course of this whole thing.
We never finished the poll.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. My bad. Totally
finish.
forgot. Way to blow that one.
I'll
All right.
finish it
Yes,
right now.
thank you.
So number one answer was for which describes your experience with immutable distros. They are okay. 26%. They are good. 16%. I had never used one. 16%. They are amazing. 11%. Not interested in these type of distros. 11%. Other 11%. 6% do not have a good time with it. 6% Tux Penguin.
I'm glad Tux Penguin got a vote this time. That's important. Tux Penguin has to represent, Well, very cool. Are you surprised by that poll, Eris?
No, I think that would have won. Seems like not saying anything yes or no, basically. It's okay.
Yeah. They're okay. Yeah, let's kind of look at it. They're okay. They are A-okay. Maybe A-okay. Like a slightly above okay, but not just below good. I don't know. All right. So I guess now we get on to the RSS feed applications. So a little bit like what's RSS? I guess for us old timers here, that play on our banjos and sit on the front porch on our rocking chairs and yell at kids to get off the lawn. We know. But for those that don't know, RSS feed, which means really simple syndication, is a standardized machine-readable format. It allows websites, blogs, or news platforms to publish updates like articles, posts, or podcasts in a structured way. Think of it as a subscription to a site's content news posts. They're automatically delivered in an RSS reader or aggregator like FreshRSS, Liferea, or others, without you needing to visit the site. It's a simple XML format listing headlines, summaries, links, and publish dates, making an easy way to stay updated across multiple sources in one place. Perfect for Linux geeks who want a clean, ad-free way to track open source news or tech blogs. And then for I have some notes on that below. So about how to control your consumption without the walled garden apps as well. So how did you discover RSS feeds to begin with?
I have yet to discover them actually, Nate.
Oh,
I
'cause
don't
you're
use
a
them very
youngin'.
much at all, man.
Me personally, I'm pretty sure it was just following blogs and stuff back in the day, and wanting to know when there was a new article. So just having it sort of feed into a single location where you could track those things that you're interested in.
Mm-hmm. So so for those that have RSS feeds, I think Eris, you use RSS feeds, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with that, I wanted to ask the question, how do you get the feed?
to be
How do
like
you get feeds? Like, how do you physically get the feed? Like, do you go like sometimes it's obvious, but sometimes it's not.
oh,
Do you
so
have a way you specifically get the feed?
yeah. So for example, you can subscribe to the RSS feed on cubicleinate.com. In fact, I just have to like copy the RSS feed link that's there, and then you can just paste that into your RSS reader. So that's one way. So a lot of websites offer that if they have a blog style thing going on. So for instance, like Framework, they have that. OpenSUSE, they have that with the Planet OpenSUSE, and also their news.OpenSUSE, as you can subscribe to different languages as well, or international, or all of them. And so they provide a little link there for you to do that. And that's how I use it. I just find them, I copy the link, stick it in the reader, and I'm off to the races. But I think I'm gonna say Wired has one too, because I used to read Wired all the time. So that's what Wired magazine.
Most publishers do. Even if they have like paywalls, they still will have the headline of the article and a link to the content. Is you can configure RSS to publish the how much information you want. I mean, there's sort of a structure to it. There's an XML format basically, and so there are some sort of recognized standards with RSS. But within that, you can choose to include either the entire content, like the whole article itself, images, video, like you can, put everything in there, or just have it be more or less like a teaser and then a link to the article. So it's pretty flexible in terms of like how you can publish as a publisher. And then also from the client side, you can choose whether or not you're loading just the content that's published in the RSS, or you can have most of them go out and retrieve the web content and then just view it straight in the RSS viewer, or you can have it so that you click the link and goes to your browser. I mean, it's basically pretty flexible in terms of, but at the heart of it, it's just a very simple means of distributing that content. And to Eris's point, most sites will have, if they have a feed, they'll have like a link to it somewhere that you can, copy it or click it, and then it'll, open in the right application. If not, there are plugins, like browser plugins. So like there's one for Firefox where it will show in the address bar, if there's a RSS feed available, it'll just show that little icon.
That's
and
cool.
then you could click it. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways to get the information. You can also just try it because there's usually like a feed.xml or RSS, so.
Part of the reason why I asked that was because Firefox usually have a built-in reader, and you would just click on the link, and it will show you the feed, and you can see that there's a feed. Otherwise, you would just get the source code, which, unless you know what you're looking at, you're like, what is all this junk?
Yeah, because you're looking at the raw XML. Yeah.
And like YouTube, like I always say, you can subscribe to the YouTube feed through the RSS. You don't have to get a YouTube account. Most people don't know that, and Google and YouTube doesn't do a job like telling you there's an RSS feed there, but it exists. So
that's cool. So you could do an RSS feed like on the different people you want to subscribe to, I guess, right? So if you want to subscribe to,
Linux Saloon, maybe.
Linux Saloon, you could do that. I didn't know that. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's well, I mean, and you can also just get a extension that is an RSS reader. So on Firefox, there's one called FeedBro that is the most popular one. Awesome RSS. So to your point, Eris, there used to be that button that was part of Firefox. It was just built in. And Awesome RSS puts the button back. So yeah, I just went to extensions and searched for RSS, and yeah, there's a bunch of tools. I tend to just sort by most users, because there's a lot of extensions that get released that, were somebody's, school project or something, and it's just abandoned, and they tend to do a terrible job of removing old stuff that's unsupported, abandoned, And so if you sort by most users, you can tend to find like the current best options.
Yeah. So I guess let's maybe get into the actual different readers themselves. So I'm curious, Eric, what do you use for your aggregator? RSS
I use
aggregator, I should say.
Thunderbird. Yeah, Thunderbird,
okay.
just because it's just built in. I've used Feedly and some of the other RSS readers, and they're nice, but I mean, you really have to. A lot of them take some effort to kind of set up the way you want. I mean, you can just dump everything in and have it be in one folder and all that, but they sort of. I would say that people who use RSS feeds are either doing it as a matter of like some job they're doing, or that they're a content creator and they need to keep on top of current events, or they're just the type of person who, instead of going through and browsing all the different sites, would rather have that, centralized in one place. Where if you're that type of person, you probably want to have some level of organization and tags and, different folders and all this different stuff. So a lot of the RSS readers tend to have a lot of like, categorization and different like levels and structure behind it. So the nice thing about, and you can create folders in Thunderbird and have, some differentiation stuff, but it's a pretty flat, like straightforward tool. It's just, it has a blogs and news feeds section that just fits in with all of the email accounts. And then each individual feed is represented as an item. And then when you click on it, you just see the entries as if they're emails in the center column. And then whatever content is included in the feed will then be loaded on where the like email reader pane is. So it's a really simple, straightforward way to just start using RSS. You can import feeds, export your feeds. There's it's a decent tool or set of capabilities, but like I said, it's not going to be as involved as something like the tools that you've mentioned or that you're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, of all the tools that I looked at, I actually am sticking with Thunderbird, and the reason is the simplicity of it and the integration into the rest of my information absorption portal, I guess we can call it. My window to all that information that I read. So I guess it just what I like is you can create, like I have a tech one that I got, like a news one right now. That's it. And so you can actually break the feed. Like if you want to if let's say you just don't want to see news stuff, you can just, shade that or whatever. It's gonna like roll it up, so it's just you don't see it. And then you can look at just my tech stuff, and it's all my, OpenSUSE framework, things of that nature. All my tech RSS feeds are now in one, and then I have, other things broken out in case stuff I want to keep tabs on. And so I think it's actually really nice because it's a nice bypass to the irritation that a lot of websites have become, I've noticed. And that's just over the course of this week when after talking about it last week, reintroducing RSS feeds, I'm like, wow, this does make my life, it simplifies things really in many ways. And then the fact that you can customize it and trim it to just what you want to see, again, that's another, it's beautiful. And Sleepy Eye Vince, he says, RIP Google Reader. We're going to talk about that later. So I did notice that Anna Rita, she brought up that she uses something called Liferea. Mm-hmm. Does anyone here besides Anna Rita use this one?
Yeah, that's a pretty long-lived one. I'm pretty sure it's been around for a while.
It looks like it. So the to me it looks really good. I like the tab options, how you can break things down, podcasts and music, all that stuff. So that it seems like it's really good. I didn't try it for any significant time, but if you were to subscribe to podcasts in it, can you actually listen to the podcasts right inside of this as well then?
I think if they embed a player, you can. I don't know if Liferea itself includes a player where if it sees a link that links to audio, if it's like has that functionality built in. But I would guess if you like embed, a lot of podcast websites will have an embedded audio player.
Okay.
It'll because most of the RSS clients have web browser capabilities built in because the RSS is sort of XML is kind of like it's a web technology where you can have XML loading in a browser and anyway, so yeah, if they had an embedded player, streaming player, I would guess that would work, but I don't know if it has it. Yeah.
So Enrita says yes with Liferea. You can do that.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And so here's some of the distinguishing features of it. So you can read articles when offline. See, that I think is a really neat feature too, because I know we're now basically a chronically online society, but I'm not always online. Sometimes I am not online. And I think having the ability to, pull that information in and see it offline. I know it's, like when I dial up into AOL and pull down my news feeds, I got to make sure I can have them. Haha. So force fetch full articles using HTML5 extraction. Subscribe to HTML5 websites that do not even have a feed. I did not know you could do that. Huh. Synchronize with Google Reader API, the old Reader, FreshRSS, FeedHQ, MiniFlux. I guess those are, but Google Reader doesn't exist anymore, I guess. So, and then there's also Reda and Tiny RSS. Permanently save headlines in news bins. Match items using search folders. Play podcasts in Liferea. So that's pretty cool. So I never actually heard of this one, and I think it's pretty neat. So another one called FeedFlow. It is a flat pack. So that was for GNU to Linux. If you wanted to install it, there's a flat pack for you, not to install, I guess. In case you care. So it looks kind of similar. It has, they all seem to have the same sort of thing going for it, but it's designed to complement an already existing web-based RSS reader account. Combines all the advantages of web-based services like syncing across all your devices with everything you expect from a modern desktop program, desktop notifications, fast search and filtering, tagging, handy keyboard shortcuts, and having access to all your articles as long as you like. That I think is another neat thing about RSS readers. It allows you to hang on to your information. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it has a read and unread feature just like an email, so you know what you've gotten to and what you haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
It does seem like in the development cycle, it was kind of an extension of the email concept, which makes sense why it's built into Thunderbird.
Yeah.
The another one called Newsflash. And wait, did I say Newsflash already? Yeah, FeedFlow is another one. It's a minimalistic RSS reader. So this one, the key features are minimalist design, focus on what matters with clutter-free interface, FreshRSS integration, connect to your FreshRSS server with advanced feed management, flexible reading options, choose between WebView, ReaderView, Reader Mode, or your preferred browser. Privacy focus, select your favorite privacy-focused browser as a separate reading experience, an easy migration, import, export RSS feeds with OPML files. So I guess what sets this apart is clean, intuitive interface. I think they all say they're clean and intuitive interfaces. I don't know if that's, yeah. Multiple sync options to fit your workflow, customizable reading experience, and fast and lightweight. Regular updates and active development. I would like to see one that says it's heavy and takes up lots of resources.
And like really clunky UI.
Yeah.
Ultra bloat.
Yeah. Ultra bloated.
Yeah,
terrible UI. And then RSS Guard. It looks like a cute application. It has a kind of a cute look about it, I think.
And they have two releases. One is the full version, and then they have a light version that doesn't have a built-in web browser.
Okay. So it supports Atom, JSON, RSS, then supports many web-based feed services, including Feedly, Gmail, and Google Reader APIs, which we'll see that seems to be kind of a theme amongst a lot of it. So, yep. And then this one has like if you want to auto start, things you have to do for the Flatpak as well. And then, yeah. So what I thought was interesting in my rabbit hole that I went down is apparently there's a lot of people who use something called FreshRSS to have your own service for gathering this, and then you connect to your service for synchronization and whatnot. So has anybody here used FreshRSS? No?
I do.
You do? Tell me about it before. Well, let me read this beginning here, and then I want you to tell me about it first. So FreshRSS is a free, open source RSS Atom feed aggregator designed for self-hosting, making it perfect for privacy-conscious users who want to ditch centralized services like Google Reader, rest in peace, or Feedly. Launched around 2012, it's lightweight, customizable. There's that lightweight again. Customizable and runs entirely on your own server. Think of it as your personal news dashboard without ad or tracking. It's especially popular among Linux enthusiasts because it integrates seamlessly with distros like OpenSUSE Tumbleweed via Docker, Apache Nginx, or even simple PHP setup, and supports pulling feeds from thousands of sources for a clutter-free reading experience. Key features include it's a multi-user support, great for families or team setup, individual accounts with personalized feeds and themes. Now, I honestly, after going through that, and this is actually what I wanted to ask you about specifically, then now that you said it, GNU to Linux, why use that as opposed to just a client?
Well, the main reason why you want to use a service rather than just a client is if you want to read your RSS feeds on more than one device, you can stay in sync.
Okay.
So if I didn't care about sync, I would use FeedBro Firefox extension on my laptop or desktop because I really like the interface. I like the dark mode. I like the keyboard shortcuts. It's quick. It has 6 different modes to view your feeds. So if I only wanted to read them on my laptop, I'd pick FeedBro. I would recommend FeedBro. If I only wanted to read on my Android phone or tablet, I would suggest Feeder. Feeder, not feeder.co. That's different because that is really nice. It has a nice UI on your phone or tablet. However, what makes FreshRSS different, like I said, it's a service, and it's not the only one. There's others, but if you could either self-host it, which I'm not doing, or you could find an instance, set it up on a virtual private server, or find an instance where they're allowing you to use their space. And then what you can do is get one or more clients and access your feeds through those clients. For example, on my laptop, I just use the web interface. So
Okay.
I'm using FreshRSS on the web interface. If I'm on my phone or my tablet, I'm using an app called Read Drops. And putting in the FreshRSS information, my password, username, and what's nice is that keeps everything in sync.
Okay.
Yeah, they list APIs and native apps that can use FreshRSS as the backend. So almost like how Google Reader, more or less like an aggregate service where you're collecting the feeds you want to have, and then being able to interact with that backend via either an API or a native app that connects to the server otherwise. So yeah, it's kind of like the FreshRSS is kind of like an intermediate step where to what Jim's saying, and you made the comparison to email a couple times. It's just like using the difference between using IMAP and so you have that kind of ability to read it from multiple devices so that it's not like, oh, I get it on this one and then I don't have my history on all the devices. So yeah, it's sort of analogous to that.
So would
Most
there-
of the services where you are going to get that kind of sync, you have to pay for. There's a number of them that you haven't named yet, but they're out there. You could pay for them. They all have a free limit. You might get 100 feeds or 150 feeds or 200 feeds. You know, there's some kind of a limit. And then if you want to go above that, you're going to have to pay, you know, at $5 a month or $49 for the year or whatever it may be. You know, if you want to just do it on one device, or if you don't mind the lack of sync, you're willing to just manually mark everything red, you know, you could do that for free. Or I got lucky and found an instance of FreshRSS that didn't cost me anything.
Yeah. I don't really want to name them, honestly, just because they're proprietary and,
Yeah.
but yeah, there are some very notable, sort of recognizable hosted services that more or less are giving you that, you know, your feeds are hosted and then you're able to connect. A lot of them have their own apps or an API, you know, where you can log in from a third party. And most of them have a very nice web client anyway. So like, you know, the website itself is, you know, responsive and doesn't matter which size screen you're using and all of that. But they also all cost money. Like the most famous one I would say is $750 a month. So anyway, but this is something that lends itself very well to you know, either self-hosting or I think this is a type of thing that is open. There's a sort of open standard. There's so many ways to consume this stuff, and there are lots of great options.
One that you haven't mentioned, there are some services online, or again, you could self-host this. There are RSS to email functionalities. So and what's nice about that is if you can convert your RSS feeds and send them to an email the clients, they all have IMAP. So that sync function is already built into it. So, and it also gives you a lot more options for interfaces. You can then use Thunderbird or whatever, and, you know, or apps on your phone, your tablet, and sync that way.
Right. That's interesting. So I wonder can you use something like FreshRSS with Thunderbird?
Yeah. Yes, you'd be able to, excuse me.
I don't think Thunderbird lets you put in a password like that.
Let me see.
I don't think Thunderbird can act as a client for one of those services, is what I mean.
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
Thunderbird has a nice RSS functionality on its own, but it doesn't sync like your email.
Right.
It's great for long-term storage, though.
Yeah.
So no, with it can manage subscriptions. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they have Fluent Reader, RSS Guard, Newsflash, Newsboat. Those are the free versions that are listed as Linux compatible. So, and they're using the G-Reader API.
Yeah, it seems interesting because it'd be nice to have things like synchronized between. That's I think that's the winner right there in my eyes. But I don't read a lot on my phone. I find like that's not how I like to consume most of my news, I guess, because I don't usually have my readers with me.
Tablets, though, I find that the reason I like it is because the tablet, I have an 8-inch tablet, Fire HD tablet, which is Android, and I have the Google Play Store as well as F-Droid on there. So what's nice about that is it's nice. You hold it in your hand, and there are some types of content that I find convenient to, sit back on a chair or a couch and be able to read, especially if you let them build up for a little bit. You got a whole bunch of stuff waiting for you to read. And in my experience, I spent days and hours trying so many different apps a few months ago because, their interfaces are all slightly different, as you could imagine, right? And how they present your feed content and how you navigate from one to the next are all slightly different. And I found that some of them are really nice and some feeds look better in other apps, like the Cubicle Nate blog. For some reason, I don't know if it's on your end or on the app, and when I in FeedBro, I get the whole message, the whole post, but in FreshRSS, I just get like a summary or the top paragraph. Maybe that's changeable in the settings, but I started figuring out I've got 160 feeds or whatever. There's one that doesn't display right in FreshRSS, but it looks great in Feeder on my tablet, and I can't figure out why. So, I started like becoming obsessed. I was trying to find the right comment, the right app that would satisfy everything. And when you have that many feeds, there's always one or two that don't look right for some reason.
Well, I apologize for my site messing you up. I don't know what's causing it one way or the other. So what does it do it for me? And I'm just using Thunderbird. So I'm kind of curious now. Oh well, I'm not subscribed to it, so I don't know. Anyway, I think the FreshRSS does seem like a really interesting. It might be fun just to play with, I think. Now I wonder if it runs. It says they said install Docker, but will that run on Podman? Do you know? Because I use Podman on my server instead.
I haven't run into many Docker based things that didn't run on Podman. I mean, there are some I know that that won't, but it's kind of impressive, honestly, that Podman works as seamlessly as it does. But
it seems like something Adam might know the answer to.
I don't even know what's happening, man. I lost power. What happened?
he ain't listening.
Sorry about that. Is there like this FreshRSS? If I want to run it on my server, I have Podman on my server because that's what Cockpit likes. So would there be any to install the Docker image? Would there be anything that I have to keep in mind when trying to run it on the machine running Podman? Well, if I run Docker run D whatever, is it going to work on Podman? Because I don't use images very much.
Yeah, you could just replace the word Docker with Podman and it'd probably just work.
Okay.
A lot of the Podman syntax is identical.
Okay.
Not all of it, but a lot of it.
I think it'd be interesting to play with. It just seems like it'd be fun to play with. But not to have a huge need for it. So, GNU to Linux, you run FreshRSS, and then you use it on your phone to interact with it, right? What client do you use on your phone?
Yeah, on my phone
or tablet.
on my tablet.
Yeah,
because I use the tablet more than the phone. Because the phone's small. But on my tablet, which is also Android, I use Readdrops, ReaddDrops. That's one of the apps that if you go to FreshRSS GitHub, they'll list that along with a few others. You've got several choices with FreshRSS, on your phone, on your tablet, and on your desktop, whether you're on Linux or Windows or Mac. You have a few different options.
Okay. So I see it looking at the native apps for Android. I see Readdrops is number one.
Right.
Fluent Reader for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Also RSS Guard, Newsflash, and Newsboat. So
Yeah, and then there are Android apps as well. Yeah, it looks like they've got pretty robust support, honestly, for a lot of different, a lot of flexibility.
Hmm.
And you can install it as a Docker image, but you can also do a standard install if you were just doing like a virtual machine, like so you don't have to do Docker if you don't want to. But anyway,
I kind of like the whole containerized business.
oh sure,
and-
no, I think
yeah.
I think most people do now. I'm sure it works fine that way. So.
That's pretty cool. So the question is, because I haven't used RSS for quite a while. Do you think RSS is going to continue to be like a common? Do you think it's on the decline, or do you think it's pretty much leveled out as far as usage is concerned? Because like
I think it's like email. It's like it's just there. It's just something that I think a lot of people who need to keep track of it's the technology, I think itself is just I haven't seen like a lot of platforms that are pushing back against it or anything. Like it's just like how podcasting relies on feeds, and how the major companies like Spotify, whatever, they've tried to kind of lock down podcasting, but the truth is that it's still sort of an open feed, open standard sort of thing, and so you end up just limiting yourself if you cut it off. So I think I don't see it going anywhere, but I could be wrong, I guess.
I would say it's definitely waned in popularity. Younger people may not even know that it exists because, many of us here are old enough to remember the old web when it was new, and all those a lot of those standards, those open standards are sort of a thing of the past. Email still exists and it's still important, although many young people don't bother with that either unless they forced into it by their job. Usenet gone in large part. A lot of those old standards, the web has largely been taken over by walled gardens. RSS is one of the last, open standards that was, created. It had its sort of heyday in the Google Reader days. Oh, I love seeing cats, by the way, night, Eric. And it's largely, I think a lot of people have forgotten it or never even knew it existed. And podcasting has podcasting has sort of kept it relevant, even though it's just really the back end that most people don't think about when they're using a podcasting app. I really treat my podcast app separately from my FreshRSS or my other RSS readers.
Could
I
you
think it
use-
has a place. And
Could you use RSS or Fresh RSS for also managing like podcasts between multiple devices as well?
yeah, when you sign up, you get the podcast right in your feed, and when you read one, when you read the message, it'll show that it's read elsewhere. I don't think it'll sync like the red state or anything. You need an actual podcast software for that, but if you read the message, in your feed, it'll know that it was read when you go to the other app.
Yeah, I was curious. It'd be something to play with too. Because I used to use the Google probably a decade ago when I first started getting into podcasts. I used to use the Google podcast app because it was synchronized between my devices. And then as I kind of moved away from Google, I never really had a good replacement for it. So I don't know if Google even offers that anymore. I think actually the reason I got off of that wasn't because of it being Google, but because Google never keeps anything going, and I didn't want to rely on something that I couldn't rely on. So
It's a great way to find content and read it on your terms, without,
Right.
having to go fetch it,
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's, we were talking about this last week. To me, there are about a half a dozen really good use cases for why, why would a person want to use RSS? And there's about a half a dozen of those cases, in my opinion, that it makes a lot of sense for and solves problems.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. Well, very cool. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about with RSS, or have we beaten this to a pulp?
Yeah, I'll just mention a couple of interesting uses that I found for it. Number one, big sites that just no way you could read it every day, right? Reddit or Hacker News or some other sites that just have, tons and tons of content, tons of sub forums and sub whatever. You could effectively set up notifications. So when a keyword gets mentioned in a post, it'll tell you when that happens. So, it's almost like, finding the needle in the haystack and bringing it to you. So to me, that's one of the best uses for RSS. And if you go into Reddit, you could you just Google it and you'll see there's some very specific syntax you could use to enable pretty sophisticated, what we used to think of as like Boolean search. You could set up really clever searches and have it tell you, when the information or the phrase or word that you're interested in appears. Same thing, Hacker News has a very sophisticated set of instructions you could set up to let it tell you when, the thing that you're specifically interested in, like say OpenSUSE or whatever, if that's something you're interested in, you could tell it, it'll tell you, hey, here's a new post. You don't have to go fetch it and look for that. The other use is, blogs that are occasional, let's say a blog or a website you're following posts once or twice a month, but it's not like on the same day. It's irregular, the schedule. Well, you're never going to remember, right? Months will go by, you just forget about it. But RSS will, basically tell you, knock on your door, so to speak, say, hey, here's the new post. You weren't holding your breath for it, but here it is. So that's the other really neat functionality that it has. And then, lastly, I found a way to read Twitter feeds without having a Twitter account through RSS using a combination of Knitter, which is like a front end for Twitter, and RSS. So it allows a person who does not have a Twitter account to create a feed effectively of whatever accounts you want.
So I have a hard time checking Reddit. It's just not it's not a website that is top of mind. With a couple of communities in there that I'd like to actually have as a feed. Is that something that's easy to create a feed out of?
Yeah, you literally so if it's a /r/ whatever.
This week in retro.
Then you would take out the / after this week in retro and just put .rss. It's that easy. That's literally how do you get it? How do you get to it?
So it'll be reddit.com/r/thisweekinretro.rss, and then I would have the RSS feed.
Yeah, and you just put that in as the custom feed for your feed reader. So I just did it with one, and yeah, I went to the subreddit, copied the reddit.com/r/subreddit name, and then pasted it into my RSS client, and then put a .rss at the end of it, and yeah, it just pulled down all of the. Yeah, it's not a rich feed. It doesn't have. Well, I mean, it's giving me the subreddit name and then the time that it was posted, but that could be because of the reader I'm using. So
you should get the whole post, but not the comments. If you want to read the comments, you'll have to click through to the site.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine, because if I just had the headlines or whatever, that would be, for the most part, that'd be pretty sufficient, I think. So, no, that's neat. Cool. Well, I learned a thing today. I'll have to implement that. All right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and hop into housekeeping here. So next week is an open mic night, and if you'd like to be a part of that, have any whatever topics you have, it's anything that's Linux tech, open source, any just general topics. Doesn't have to be news. You can build off of news. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is. Feel free to come by and we can do some Linux Saloon in there. But if you have any suggestions for distributions, applications, or poll ideas, we do have a distribution coming up in 2 weeks. So if you guys want to send your suggestions for what distribution we should use, and if it's something that's more involved, different ways to basically manipulate or do that, or it can be maybe a general idea too. So if we want to have I don't know, try a gaming focused distribution, we can do that as well. It's kind of loosey goosey. The rules are fast and loose here on Linux Saloon. So there we go. Let's see the time. We do have some time for some news or open discussion. So I thought this was interesting. I want to bring this up at the last week. I think it was whenever we did news. I think it was last week. So a GNOME executive director steps down after 4 months. Did anybody see this? So after barely 4 months, the GNOME Foundation announced its new executive director, and then Stephen Diobald, who is taking over after Holly Millian stepped down after less than 1 year, announced that he is stepping down as executive director. The GNOME Foundation Board of Directors announced Stephen Diobald would be stepping down. He has confirmed this on his personal blog of his departure. Alan Day is serving as the president and acting executive director as a departure. So he mentioned, let's see, let me find this here. So he was part of the foundation during that period. This Stephen Diobald. But he stepped down. Why though? I'm trying to find out what the reason was. But I know he was sick, and anyway, so there's a lot of turbulence in the GNOME Foundation, and I don't think that's just like a season, or do you think there's some other reasons for that? Does anybody even care? I guess would be the next question.
Sounds like they're having issues.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
I saw that article, I think about a week ago. I didn't read it. Didn't read too much into it, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a user of GNOME, so it doesn't
No.
directly impact me. But I do like how, and GNOME's not for me, but I do like how GNOME does what GNOME wants to do, and they don't really seem to care what other people think. And I do respect that about that. But I wonder if there's sometimes maybe there might be it might be too rigid of an environment for some people. I don't know.
Or there's a little bit of button heads going on behind the scenes.
It could be.
I don't know.
So, but in his blog, he talks about he had many wonderful interactions. So many he lost count, and then so. But anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. That. I know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that GNOME is such a large project, and it is such a well-known project, and has pretty substantial funding, and people are employed to work on it. I mean, there are people who literally make their living developing GNOME. So management is management. And as long as you don't have someone come in that's going to sort of, they're going to make their mark and start blowing things up just to make changes. You have some managers that are kind of pretty cavalier like that. That's what I always worry about with upper management. So, I mean, the ship's still floating. The people doing the work are still there and doing the things they do. A lot of their efforts are multi-year. I mean, they have a direction, and I think it's a pretty well accepted sort of, a structure. And so I don't see this as being like a major issue. I mean, it would be nice to know like why, what the real story is, but ultimately I don't know that it really matters. And obviously it would be nice to have somebody in there that's going to stay longer term. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much of a change, if any, it's going to be. So not too worried.
Yeah, I'm not worried either. I mean, there's always been turbulence in all these open source projects, and I think it just kind of ebbs and flows, and somehow it works itself out, and it's fine. I mean,
right? It's only newsworthy because it's GNOME and not any of the thousands of other projects.
Right, the ones that are probably more important, but doesn't get the traction.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not as visible. And I know we as we move on to the next subject here. So CachyOS top DistroWatch's rankings. I don't know if did anybody not that DistroWatch is something that we care all that much about, because it's we don't actually know how even the rankings work, I guess. But CachyOS did top. Apparently that article is gone. But you can go to DistroWatch, and it's number one. Somehow it beat out MX Linux, which has been number one like forever. But it beat out Mint as well, and it's not even. It's actually pretty substantial how far above, like how high number one is.
I blame AI. You can make bots with AI now.
Oh, you think so?
I have to wonder, what is it that's pushing because DistroWatch, that number is basically the number of times something, whether it's I guess a human or a bot or somebody is hitting that entry in their list of distros. So somebody or something is, either there's organic interest that's coming from somewhere. I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a really popular creator or series of creators out there that are making content about CachyOS. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting project, and I'm glad that they're getting some attention, and I think there are some people that genuinely enjoy using it, but I'm always suspicious of like why any one distro gets so much attention so quickly. So I don't know. I'm not sure why that might be.
So is the clincher of CachyOS the tuned kernel for gaming? Is that really what is?
Not just gaming. I mean, just performance in general. I mean, I think I don't know if everybody knows it, but the kernel has to be sort of a generic one size fits all. The general release is that way, but then of course you can recompile the kernel however you want it, and there are flags and switches and things that turn things off or turn things on, and there are ways to minimize things that aren't necessary for a desktop distribution versus a server distribution. So there are lots of ways to streamline it, and I think that's really the advantage of something like Cachy, is that they have put a lot of effort into making it as performant as possible from a desktop user use case, right? And it is the kernel, but it's also some other stuff, and it does perform really well. I mean, I the times that I've used it, it is noticeably faster than even regular Arch. So yeah, they've and I don't and I would say that it sort of ingratiates it to people who know about Linux and who are already users, who may have already even be Arch users, who find that sort of proposition interesting, that someone has taken the sort of some of the plumbing of Arch and done some interesting tweaks to it. But outside of that, I'm just not sure where where this push is coming from. And it maybe Aris is right. Maybe just somebody's doing some some stuff where they have got but I see, this is where I would hope that DistroWatch was smart enough to rate fairly, add more clicks or whatever. Then, this is why there's so much skepticism around the DistroWatch ranking anyway, because it is easy to game. So,
yeah. I don't know. I think
There's also the part that if something gets promoted by some kind of YouTuber or something,
yeah.
that's gonna get clicks, and then more people see that it's going up, and then they start clicking at it, and it's like a snowball effect to things. That could be happening, but it's also, since it's Arch based, I think there's some bias to that. Arch distros are heavily promoted by people who make content, I think.
Now, do you think, because I see that they do some of the, they're using only the newer versions of the x86 kernel. So I know that does provide some performance increases, but I wonder if that, is like the YouTube thing. And also, this is just conjecture here, but you know how Arch has kind of been sort of under attack a lot lately, as far as their content.
Mm-hmm.
Viruses and not viruses, I should say malware, not viruses. That's viruses. Do you think that the rapid popularity of some of these between the YouTubers and things like CachyOS is drawing the eye of these malware makers, and they're doing some sort of target because it is at the top of things like DistroWatch? I mean, do you think there's some relation? There's a correlation there?
I mean, I don't know. I would think that there would have to be more behind it than that. I mean, you'd have to be pretty damn bored to just be like, what's the top one on DistroWatch?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. And I know between Garuda, Garuda, this, and then just Arch in general, with different YouTubers and whatnot. I think it seems like maybe it might be drawing the eye of or the ire of somebody or somebody's, exploiting the general weaknesses and goodwill that I think that open source projects tend to have. And I think that's maybe the concern. That's a weakness. People, not the technology, but the people. But anyway, just a thought. We must protect what we find important. So, all right.
I don't know if you saw that somebody suggested Garuda. Garuda, we did do in year 0. I don't know if you remember that time period. So we haven't done that officially since Linux only kicked off.
Okay. Maybe we should give that a look again. Let's put on the list. Maybe, Aris, we should put together a StrawPoll for that and, plan ahead. What do you think? Thoughts on that?
That could be good.
Yeah.
I just need what distros you want.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We can do that. We can collaborate on that. Yeah, the ire of Sauron. Is that how you say it? Sauron? That's what Sean says. I'm all for that. That's a good reference. All right. We'll put together a straw poll, and then we can decide next week. See how it goes. Cool. All right. Well, it's close enough in time. So I guess we're gonna go ahead and hop to the community free pour before my network blips again. And
hopefully it doesn't, Nate.
Well, you'll probably make it blip because that's the kind of power you have.
We're just gonna give you some exciting news, nothing more.
Okay. What is that exciting news, Ben? Nothing more.
Well, Red and I have been slaving away making our next 2 releases a banger,
A banger.
and we've really been pushing the barriers on this one. So, we've been stabilizing it, putting the latest packages in there, and we took out Chromium in favor of, you guys are probably going to facepalm at this, but it's for good reason. We put in app images for the browser, actually. So we turned our custom browser, Icarus, aka the StormOS browser, into an app image. Same with Google Chrome. I know, Google, shame on us, whatever.
No, that's fine.
But, regardless, those are the 2 browsers we're using now primarily. There's no package pre-included for the browser. And we've also put in a few others like KeepSXC, OnlyOffice, RSS for remote support, things like that. And we also brought back the StormOS screen recorder, a fork of SSR. If you don't know what that is, simple screen recorder. So we brought that back. And yeah, just a lot of nice quality improvements, and just we revised the system tool, just a slew of different things. And it's continuously getting better. And XFCE is still the flagship. And I've been playing around with some. One of my Star Wars friends gave me a paid subscription to ChatGPT. Bless him for that. And yes, and so I've been utilizing that to update some of the themes on this tower of mine, and we're going to test those out and see if those can make it into the next ISO next month. So we're going to see how that goes. So a lot of improvements have been going in, and also we're currently testing the latest version of Calamares 3.4. So hopefully that will make it into the next ISO. And also we are doing twice a month ISOs now, actually, for all our projects, and this currently will help speed things along, kind of make it quicker to get to the latest packages and features and things like that. So we're going to have a testing ISO 2 weeks in, then at the end of the month we're going to release our full-on build. So just to get us that proper feedback and all that kind of thing. So. And also, the users can report bugs they find, and we can go back and make it all better and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's what the 3 of us have decided. And hopefully next week, Ricky and Red and I will be on to sort of be here and that kind of thing for the open mic chat. So,
well, cool.
Anyway, that's our update for this week, and we'll report more as we go along. So, open Seuss. That's a good one, Harris. But yeah, just want to give that quick 3-minute update for you.
So maybe I'll do a haiku next week for Mike.
Oh, good grief!
Of why I have an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. Yeah, a couple haikus.
God! Now that would be hilarious.
I think so.
But yeah, on my Dell machine, the XPS next to me on the floor, it's still running Gen 2 Plasma, loving it. And speaking of that, I haven't even done my updates for today. Ah, dang it. But that's an after show.
There's always Sunday.
Patch Sunday for Ben.
That's right.
All right. Well, either way, I'm going to... Back to you, Nate.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben. That's very, very exciting.
Yes.
I hope the firings go well.
Oh, God. All right. Well, either way, that's where we're at with StormOS, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up, I guess.
All right. So that's about the time for last call, and I want to thank you all for being here. Of course, what I did want to kind of go around the horn here, and like anyone has anything going on.
That's an interesting term.
Yeah, it's a term we use in the Army, actually. I don't. Mike, did you ever use that term when you're in the Army? Go around the horn?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I
Interesting.
never heard that.
I
Maybe just
My mom was in the Navy, and I don't know if they used that or not.
I don't know. Well, anyway, we'll go around the horn, and I guess we'll start with Dale. Do you have what do you have going on?
Not a lot more than anything, but doing the part 2 of Ink Stitch Live tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live.
7 p.m. Eastern. I can't remember why I didn't make it last time.
I was looking for you. Didn't
I know.
happen.
There's
It's
something
all
that-
good.
There's something that happened, and I can't
We
remember
all
what it
got-
was.
We all got things we're doing.
Well, it probably wasn't that important. Anyway, well, cool. I think the fact that you're making stuff with Linux using Inkscape. Inkscape is something I really need to learn how to use. I've used Illustrator and I've tried to use Inkscape, but I had a hard time with Inkscape. It's probably a user issue. So
I couldn't tell you how many times I loaded Inkscape and just could not understand it until I was kind of forced to in order to use InkStitch. And the only part of Inkscape that I know how to use still is what I need to make InkStitch work.
Okay.
I still don't know Inkscape that well.
Well, it's still neat. Let's see, Mike, how goes your BBS and or app?
Well, BBS is doing well. Appreciate everyone that tried it out. We got a few new members on there. And I think some of them came from here because they showed up the same night. So that's my first clue. Secondly, with Marklight, let me tell you guys something. This Jinda guy, he is like the most terrible boss in the world.
Rabble rouser.
He makes me work all the time. I mean, just when I think I have my work done, guess what? Mike, I need you to do this. Mike, I need you to do this. He is just, I tell you, man, no, seriously, and all joking aside, he found a really odd bug in Marklight that only seems to happen in XFCE. So I'm trying to run that down. I have some clues, but Eris, you're right, man. Jinda is a taskmaster. You're absolutely right about that. He is, that dude, he just, I just hate to think what it's like around his house, He's so mouthy too, That's the other thing.
Yeah. I never shut up.
No, in all seriousness, it's a huge help, and he's really helping me out with this. And
I tried it in a bunch of different programs. I launched it on a couple different VMs, and I didn't have any issues except for some reason XFCE.
Well, like I told you in the email, I was able to reproduce it I put MX Linux with XFCE in a virtual.
Okay.
And it did exactly what you said.
Yeah, the hotkeys don't seem to work for some reason,
Yeah.
or they work and then don't. I guess that's the best way to say it.
I think without getting too technical and going into a whole side discussion about this, but I think I've narrowed it down to the way that the desktop is handling keyboard buffering. So if that's the case, I may be able to fix it pretty easy tomorrow. So
okay.
I'll find out. I'll let you know for sure. But yeah, it's coming along good, Nate. This is just part of the process, as everybody knows. And but yeah, Jinda's been a huge help. And at this rate, not only is he going to get a T-shirt and a hat, he's probably going to get like a mug, and a thermal cup.
One like this that says Marklight.
Yeah. A freaking hoodie with Marklight on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have to give the boy a whole new wardrobe, he's been a huge help. And thank you so much, Jinda. I do appreciate it.
No problem, brother. I will torture you to the day it works.
Good.
Sweet. Well, thank you. GNU to Linux. I know you're on Mintcast. What else you got going on?
Yeah, that's it. Next Tuesday, next Sunday, 8 days from today.
Okay.
That's what I'll be on the next show.
No teasers, huh?
I'm not sure what we're doing yet, so you'll
Okay.
have to tune in and find out.
Yep. Eris called me out. It's EX fat, not X fat. So, in the chat, if you look at that.
Well,
Oops.
the only reason I called that out is because some people wouldn't know what XFAT is, and so they'll look it up. And
Oh, right.
forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Oops. I know why. I guess I'm not that smart sometimes. Hitting that too many times. Jinda, what do you got going on? Anything exciting?
No, not really at all. Doing the same stuff I always do. A whole bunch of nothing.
Good times.
Yeah.
Eris, what about you? Anything exciting going on in the world of Eris?
Can't think of something right now.
Now that summer's winding down. Or wound down. I don't know.
Looking forward to the better weather
What's better weather to you?
once summer's gone.
Oh. I like summer.
Agreed.
Man, I'm the cheese that stands alone on this one. Eric, what exciting projects do you have going on in your world?
I literally have nothing come to mind. So, yeah, just like Jim said, upcoming podcasts but otherwise, yeah, nothing really. So,
It's all
but
good.
thanks for the opportunity. Yeah.
Adam, any new games in your world that you're playing?
September 12th, Borderlands 4 comes out, so I'll
Okay.
be sinking into that one.
So
In the meantime, I'm just learning Emacs.
one of these days you do like a presentation. You did share with me that you're using Telegram and Emacs. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Pretty neat. Yeah. Pretty full featured too.
So could you have an Emacs desktop environment? Would that be like?
I believe there is one called EXWM.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Eris says, once you know Emacs, your OS becomes irrelevant.
Yeah. Why would I ever leave Emacs?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I'm enjoying it.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for that. All right. I have a website called cubulate.com. Sometimes I write things. I think I wrote something recently. I published some stuff, but I don't think in the last week. Rough week. But anyway. Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support. However you do it, being part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting, the YouTube chat, and for those of you that watch the show after the fact, thank you very much. I also want to thank the Patreon supporters as well. And if you'd like to give us a like or subscribe, I'm good for that as well. So I want to thank everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.